What we got here, Reeves bets on infrastructure spending to secure Labour's electoral future. Rachel Reeves takes a significant fiscal gamble on renewing Britain through infrastructure spending, aiming to convince voters of Labour's ability to deliver change amidst political tax increases and budget cuts in other departments. Reeves faced pressure to raise taxes and find more savings due to backlash against cuts and potential tax increases from local authorities, NHS and defence, and primary beneficiaries of spending increase, with other departments facing real-term cuts. Reeves emphasises the importance of investment in green energy, social housing and transport to kickstart growth and create jobs in deprived areas. I didn't hear any of that this week.
Yeah, I mean, my view is the first thing you do is tackle the cuts, because and when I say cuts, I actually don't mean cuts in budgeting. I mean efficiencies. Like our country, and I coincidentally shared it on my story this week, like how inefficiently we're building out HS2 and the cost of doing HS2 is astronomical. You know, you're looking at comparative railway lines in different countries that are costing 20 million, 30 million per mile of railway, and we're spending 300 to 400 million per mile in railway, and that is planning. That is red tape. That is building a bat cave. Is all of this stuff. But anyway, it's very topical because the beauty of actually becoming more efficient with the spend is you don't have to go to the taxpayer and say you need to pay more now. So there's no change. You just have to be better at understanding that if you save money in a certain area with the same output of cost, but a better output in result, no one's life actually changes. It just changes for the better. So obviously we've seen it with the Doge and Elon did, a huge absolute cut through, which is insane.
Do you not think that they don't have any incentive in saving money? Because they can print and borrow it so easily that why would you want to save money if it's a way of actually, it's another project?
They still have to answer to the bond market, so they can't borrow to infinity without the bond market going, well, hang on, how good's these rates now on your 10-year?
I mean, if you looked at that as a project from today, you'd never take it on, would you? You'd just be like, this is just way too expensive. And why is it so expensive? So what was the numbers on your spreadsheet, Jack? What you showed? You got it, you can bring up?
For the listeners, this is actually, I went down a bit of a rabbit hole of the HS2, which is a high-speed network that the UK's implementing from the north to London. It's supposed to be like a 225 mile an hour train that connects the north with the south, essentially. And it's been a project that's been ongoing for years, been rebudgeted like literally dozens of times, and is becoming a huge cost. And I wanted a bit of context around how much that cost compared with other things that other people are building around the world, to add a little bit of perspective and context. Now, to give you a bit of an indication, the proposal for HS2 is currently costing between 885 billion and 135 billion to build. And to put that in perspective, they believe that the Burj Khalifa, which was the tallest building at one point that was built in the desert, cost 1.5 billion pounds. So for some reason, this railway line is costing like 80 to 100x that cost in the UK. And it's just like, what is wrong? Why? What is wrong? And it's kind of like everything that we talk about in this podcast of like gripes and pains of planning and delays and red tape. This is amplifying that problem on a huge scale to show the context of how ridiculous this is. And it's very difficult for us to say how ridiculous this is, because we can't say, well, what does it cost to build a house in Tokyo or in California? That's very difficult to have that linear conversation because costs are different. But when you amplify these problems, this is the sort of stats that you get to. So on the screen, you can see here is compared to 4 other major high-speed railway lines that were built, the sizes and lengths of what was built and the cost to build them, and then the cost per mile to build them. So let me just pick out the one that was built in Beijing. So our railway line is 211 miles long. Theirs was 819 long. Ours is costing 85 to 135 billion. Theirs costed 35 billion. That's inflationary linked. They've actually adapted an inflationary measure to that. So their cost per mile is 43 million pounds. Ours is 400 to 600 million per mile. And there's not much in it, realistically.
400, 600 million for a mile of fucking what's it? A bit of steel and some fucking sleeper timber. Like, I mean, obviously, there's more than that. There's more than that. But come on, $500 million.
Ryan, you aren't free this weekend to build me a railway line, are you? You don't have to wash your hands. I'll let you off that bit. That's why it's so cheap. I was actually thinking that one of the reasons this might be more expensive in the UK is if you look at, I don't know about well, I can't even pronounce Tokaido, or yeah, no, is that what it is? Just in
No, as in, if you're from Japan, you might go Tokaido. I don't know.
Oh, I love it. But if you look at, for an example, California, there's so much more land. So you can fit 5 Englands in California state. So the sheer mass of it is way bigger. So to implement a 500-mile railway line means, I believe, that you probably won't have as many CPOs, which is compulsory purchase orders, which basically means if your house is in line with where we're going, the government will typically pay you 1.25% of the value of your house just to get you out so they can demolish it and build a railway line.
0.25%. 1.25 or 125%.
0.25 times multiplier, so 125%. Yeah, sorry.
Nice. Getting fucked there, aren't you?
Yeah, you'd just say no. So I think the UK might have, I don't know if CPOs are factored in this cost. I can actually probably pull up the thread and ask.
That's worth knowing, because that would be a big amount, wouldn't it?
Right, you carry on chatting about this between you.
Right, so Musk thinks with his bore tunnel he'll be able to dig from New York to the UK for 100 million a mile, and that's under the sea for 3,000 miles. His original claim was about 20 billion. And I just looked here to see how much it was for the Channel Tunnel, which actually, when it was built, real world tunnel costs today suggest trillions. Even the Channel Tunnel alone cost 21 billion in 1994. 21 billion. So it's still 20%.
You can swim that gap. That is
less than that.
Yeah, it's 38 miles long, the Channel Tunnel. It would be mad, wouldn't it? It's an hour. I think it's an hour door to door. What would it feel like to? Yeah, it'd go under the sea. Of course it would. Well, exactly. Would it be pressurized? Would it be pressurized under the earth, under the sea, or would it just be floating and then you got submarines knocking into it? I mean, it's insane. Like, it's got to be dug underneath the sea, I think, a bit like the tunnel.
Yeah, it has to go in soil. Yeah, for sure. I mean, why wouldn't they just put a tube in the sea? Is what I'm.
It knocked and blown up by a fucking. Wait, you could have a boat. Well, you could have a boat roll into it.
Yeah, it's going to go lower than boat fucking undersides. Bloody hell!
Submarine could knock into it. Torpedoes. It's too dangerous, mate. You've got to dig it under the sea and hide it. It's all the oil pipeline, all the pipelines and internet cables and stuff. They all sit on top of the sea.
They had that 120 billion bollocks disaster of the HS2, all for essentially economic progress. But imagine they allocated that towards taking the UK and America within half an hour of each other on a quick public transport link. The net benefit for our economy would be massive.
This scheme here, that's quicker to get to New York than it would be to get to Leeds.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's mad, isn't it? That's
So
how this is going to look slow before technology.
Gents, I've got the stats on CPOs. They've estimated between 5 and 8 billion spent on land acquisition. So what's that? 5%. 5%. So that, yeah, the rest of it, and I've actually got a breakdown of what they are squandering the money on. Construction. So tracks, tunnels, bridges, viaducts. Next is stations and depots. I mean, these stations better be next level.
5 billion divided by 211 miles. That's 24 million pound a mile of what they've bought on CPOs. That seems fucking crazy.
Does it seem crazy? But if you go through a mile of like residential area, though, that could be.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Divide 24 million by.
Even still, that's really expensive.
And 3/3 of it's in the north, and the prices aren't anywhere near.
They have to be shit at negotiating as well. So yeah, so stations and depots, rolling stock, so brackets, trains themselves, land acquisition, including compulsory purchase orders, voluntary purchase and compensation schemes. Next, here, this is a big one: environmental mitigation and protection.
Or just the fraud and backhanders. That's all. Just rename that fraud and backhanders.
Yeah, you got to make sure there's probably a donation in there to transgenders. Next is project management and contingency funds.
Obvious.
Yeah, it's obvious.
It's written on the wall. We're going to get some backlash for
that. Utilities, relocations, and infrastructure upgrades. I'd imagine that's actually quite a big cost, because if you've got a big power line going through, you've got to fuck around with that.
It's still crazy money. It's just eye-watering amounts of money for such a waste. And it takes so long. the time it takes. Like you're old by the time this stuff's working, and AI is going to be here by then, and none of us are going to need to transport around. It's just mental.
So it's 15 grand a meter is what they paid on that CPO.
15 grand a meter.
That's what they've negotiated.
That's interesting because you could then look at like all the areas affected, take an average of what the value per square meter is for all the areas affected, and then have they paid above the odds?
£147 a centimetre. I think they paid over the odds, mate.
Yeah, this sounds fucking nuts. If you enjoy content like this, then make sure you go and subscribe to the Ground Up Podcast.